Hey, how's it going, guys? A little bit of an off stream today, but this is something that is important to me, and it is something that I wanted to talk about and cover really quick. This is about SB Bill number 5 and the hearings of completely criminalizing any and all hemp and hemp-related products within the state of Texas. And I am hugely against that, mostly because I have seen and I know what happens when these things are criminalized. When they're criminalized, dealers then have the free reign to make packaging as appealing to kids as possible. The doses will be extremely high in THC content and stuff like that, and you will see more of these horror stories about children who are getting way too high. It's going to create a very bad publicity thing. So what I'm going to do is take a reaction to this video, because I've always been a fan of Hometown Hero and everything that they've been fighting for. This only has about 9.9k views, just about 10k views as of seeing this. So please go give them a view, give them a like, give them a comment, show them how much you appreciate them fighting for cannabis and hemp regulation in the state, because that is truthfully what we need. We need more regulation for what we already have. We don't need criminalization. If we have more regulation, it will prevent children from actually being able to get access to these products, and all of the millions to billions of dollars in tax revenue that we are getting will not be going to the cartels and the black market and gangs in order to make themselves more powerful. It will stop going to criminal organizations, and it will go towards the state, where we can pay for better roads, we can have more funding for schools, and it would just be all around an entirely huge benefit to Texas if we make sure that we get this regulated. So please join me in watching this testimony about Hometown Hero and other businesses and people trying to stop SB5 from being passed.
Okay, and I know I'm mispronouncing your first name.
No worries, happens all the time.
I understand. Joao.
Joao. Yes, sir.
Okay.
You did it a lot better than Representative King did, so thank you.
All right. Chair recognizes Joao Mitchell, testifying on behalf of the Texas Cannabis Policy Center and yourself, and you are testifying against House Bill 5. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, proceed.
Good afternoon, Chairman Van Dever and members of the committee. My name is Joao Mitchell, and I'm a legislative analyst with the Texas Cannabis Policy Center. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today in opposition to HB5, which seeks to prohibit and criminalize the possession of products that are federally legal and responsibly used by adults across Texas. This bill ignores clear guidelines put forward by Governor Abbott when he vetoed a similar bill just a few months ago. In his veto proclamation, he said, "Texans can and should reasonably regulate consumable hemp products to protect public health and safety without eliminating consumer access." HB5 clearly ignores that guidance and doubles down on the failed prohibitionist policies of the past, which cause harm and waste public resources. Multiple statewide polls have found that Texans overwhelmingly agree with the governor's call for regulation over prohibition. Each of these polls have shown that the vast majority of Republicans, Democrats, and independents want reasonable rules, not criminal penalties. HB5 would create new criminal offenses, leading to the arrest of tens of thousands of Texans annually. Due to the fact that these would be criminal drug offenses, the charges carry lifelong collateral consequences, hindering access to employment, housing, and educational opportunities. Criminal records derail lives, resulting in an immeasurable human cost. We at the Texas Cannabis Policy Center agree that gaps in the current regulatory infrastructure must be addressed. But the problem is mainly not the hemp industry, it's the lack of regulatory enforcement. Through public information requests, we have received documents from DISHES showing that the agency has only spent about 30% of the funding it collects through licensing and registration fees. Without proper oversight, bad actors are going to slip through the cracks. Accountability is critical, and it should come through administrative enforcement, including fines, license revocation, and product recalls, not criminalization. Lawmakers should give dishes a clear mandate, step up regulatory enforcement and oversight. Thank you for your time. I'm happy to answer any questions.
And he brings up a very, very good point about the fact that Governor Abbott already said that we need to enforce more regulations, and this is just completely ignoring that. And what else was I going to point out? Letting bad actors slip through. That's what it was. Yeah, there are bad actors in this state that do slip through the cracks and sell some pretty bad product. And I have bought some very low quality, bad quality products, some fake stuff, as what one of these representatives is going to call it. And it's not exactly pleasant. It doesn't even taste that good, and it really doesn't put me in any better of a position. I suffer with pain in my muscles and my skin. I also suffer with fighting nausea and having trouble trying to eat sometimes. And so I use cannabis to help. And unfortunately, I can't use cannabis anymore or any hemp products because of my current situation with probation. I'm not allowed to. So I have to work with my doctor and get working on trial and error of meds that may or may not work over and over again. And I'm going to have to go through months of diagnosis and testing when I know that the stuff just works, and it works for me. And I really don't want to have to stop doing this just because some people feel slightly uncomfortable about it and don't know what the hell to do about it. And it's a lot of very uneducated people as well in our government, which is going to be pointed out here in a minute.
Okay, thank you. Chair recognizes Lucas Gilkey, testifying on behalf of Hometown Hero and yourself, and you are against House Bill 5. Is that correct?
Correct, sir.
Okay, proceed.
Chairman, committee members, thank you for your time. My name is Lucas Gilkey. I am the CEO of Hometown Hero, a proud father and veteran of a U.S. Coast Guard counter-narcotics unit. I'm also currently the CEO of Hometown Hero, the plaintiff in a lawsuit against the state of Texas regarding hemp that has been ongoing since 2021. My Texas consumable hemp license number is 363. We are here again discussing a ban despite Governor Abbott's desire that the legislature find an appropriate way of adding the few missing regulations to the already existing ones. The hemp industry is regulated in Texas by DSHS, who receives millions of dollars per year in license fees. 4 different statewide polls show that.
And keep in mind what the last gentleman said. I believe it was Michael Joao. He said that DSHS only spends about 30% of what it gains in licensing and registration fees for these companies. So it's holding on to a big wad of this cash, and it's not spending it properly in either other areas of the state, and most especially, it's not applying it properly in the hemp industry that we already have, which is causing a lot of problems.
Texans, including Republicans, do not support prohibition, and yet a couple of legislators continue working against the will of the people while they accept large amount of money from the alcohol industry and work closely with lobbyists who represent the Texas Compassionate Use Program companies participating in the state-sanctioned monopoly.
For those of you who are outside of Texas and do not understand what is going on, there are only a select few companies that the Texas Compassionate Use Program are allowing to have legally grown cannabis inside the state for the Texas Medical Marijuana Program. For those of you who do not know, Texas is a medical marijuana state. It just has much harsher regulations and red tape that you have to jump through in order to actually get approved for medical cannabis here. It's pretty much set only to terminal illnesses, if I'm not mistaken. You pretty much have to be like somebody with severe Parkinson's. You have to be like a cancer patient, stage 4. It's not regressing. You're just gonna die in a few months. Like they really only limit who can have access to these products if you're like severely on the verge of death. They're kind of treating it like what would you say, like in the UK, how sometimes they'll give heroin to dying patients, or here in the US they will give strong opiates like morphine and codeine to patients whenever they're dying to help kind of ease their pain and ease them into them finally passing away. And I think it's kind of ridiculous. And on top of this, we've got Compassionate Cultivation, Good Blend Texas, and Consortium Texas. Those 3 companies are the only legal cannabis companies that can be in Texas, and they have a huge triopoly on everything. And it was discovered that they had spent millions of dollars for Dan Patrick to actually go against regulating hemp products, and they were also tackled by the alcohol lobby with a bunch of their contributions because they are losing money now that Texas hemp has become legal, and they want to keep bringing people into bars. They want to keep bringing people into stores and buying more of their alcohol. So it's very obvious whenever you're a Texan and you're sitting here and you're like, oh, well, this is obvious. We can look at where the money trail is going. We can see what is going on behind the scenes, and we're not stupid. So that's part of the reason why he brought up this state-sanctioned monopoly, because it pretty much is. These are state-owned companies, and they are the ones that have the only legal control of Texas cannabis. And that is just ridiculous. If y'all have been seeing anything about the whole Visa and MasterCard debacle that's been going on with Steam and games, they essentially have a duopoly in the world on processing transactions. So they can limit what businesses are allowed to have transactions. They can limit what you can purchase. And the United States, for some reason, is not recognizing it as an actual monopoly that it is, and it's just kind of ridiculous. It needs to be broken up. There need to be more companies that have legal access to Texas cannabis to give to patients that have medical cards, because this is an extremely huge state. We are, I believe, the second largest state in the entire United States. Having only 3 locations when there are hundreds to potentially thousands of miles of distance between a potential patient and a potential legal distributor of cannabis makes it to where these people are not going to go to these stores to get these legal cannabis products. They're going to go to their dealer down the street, who probably pays somebody else to get a large amount of weed for them to sell. And whoever that dealer is, they more than likely probably work with some sort of cartel who is getting the money. It is giving black markets and cartels money. If we really want to stop how bad these cartels and these illegal drugs have a hold and a grasp on our society, then we need to take control and regulation and stop trying to say that banning is a good idea, because clearly banning it and making it all illegal hasn't worked.
The products being sold in the Texas Compassionate Use Program are identical in most cases to what is being sold legally in the hemp industry, especially now that they have appropriated specific products from the hemp industry to save their bad investments and protect out-of-state venture capitalists to the detriment of hardworking Texans who have broken no laws and hurt no one over the last 6 years. Governor Abbott's mandate was simple: add in the missing pieces and allow Texas to be able to claim it is still the most business-friendly state in the USA. Rather than respond to Governor Abbott's call, this committee is contemplating a ban that would erase $10 billion of economic impact in the state and $4.3 billion in retail sales that brings in $268 million of state sales tax annually. I hope this committee considers everything and everyone at stake before making any decisions, that they comply with the will of the people who elected them and show concern for their constituents faced with bankruptcy, debt, and unemployment. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Chair recognizes Colton Luther, testifying on behalf of Texas Green Craft, LLC, and yourself. And you are against House Bill 5, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, you may proceed.
Colton Luther, I'm a sixth-generation Texan. I'm an entrepreneur in both the agriculture and consumable hemp side of this industry. On the agriculture side, I've got to see what the plant can do for the world through agriculture, through cultivating the plant, both for biomass and for fiber. On the consumable hemp side, we see the good that this plant and these consumable products do for Texans, everyday Texans, veterans, blue-collar workers, and everyone in between. The money that everyone likes to say we make in this industry, that $8 billion, is not from us pushing things down people's throat as much as it proves how much people depend on the products that we make. And we so terribly want to continue to serve those Texans from all walks of life on the consumable side. HB5 as written makes that impossible to do. You've heard the intense and extreme emotional weight that this issue carries. As a producer and a consumable hemp manufacturer, I carry that weight too, the responsibility of not only providing a good product that people enjoy and can use for their benefit, but of course, getting away from the dangers or the potential misuses of those products. So we only use organic, natural cannabinoids, and we take extra pride and care in protecting our Texans. We take that very serious.
And that is something else that really needs to be addressed, is that there are a lot of hemp companies that are in Texas that are very serious about the type of cannabinoids that they use and that they grow. They try their hardest to not synthesize any kind of cannabinoid. They try to grow it, and they try to organically separate the different cannabinoids and actually have profiles to where this is something that was naturally grown. It's not something like CBD that's converted into Delta 8 and then that Delta 8 is sprayed onto buds. They are working with growing real plants and making sure that you are getting the real natural cannabinoids that grow from the plant, not something that is converted, which is what a lot of those low quality pens, flour, edibles from bad actors can really contain. They take cannabinoids like CBD and they use chemical processes to turn it into Delta 8 THC or Delta 10 THC. They're not growing a mass amount of cannabinoids and actually separating them out and getting different amounts to where they can put it in these products.
The bad actors are not doing that. And if we didn't want sensible regulation, we wouldn't be showing up here. It's logical for us to want regulation and for any ban bills to fail. But we don't want that. We want something that works for all of us. That's the consumer, the manufacturer, and the grower in the farm. And I don't think that HB5 is that solution, but I think we're getting a lot closer based on the information we've heard today. And I really appreciate all the time that you've given each one of these panels. I know it's a lot of information. I didn't want to repeat a lot. So again, thank you for hearing us out.
Absolutely. Thank you for testifying. The chair recognizes Elizabeth Miller, testifying on behalf of self, and you are against House Bill 5. Is that correct?
I am. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
My name is Elizabeth Miller. I am opposed to this bill.
I think this is going to be one of the more stronger emotional testimonies here being spoken about, and you'll probably see why here in a minute.
I also happen to be the policy director for the Republican Liberty Caucus, but I want to speak to this personally. Some of you I didn't spend as much time in public health this session as I would have liked to. Some of your colleagues had to see me a lot in elections and whatnot. But it's nice to appear in front of you. I wish I could have spent more time. I want to speak to this personally because although I do a lot up here now, I came to this building because of cannabis activism. I have a genetic hereditary connective tissue disease called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. I'm going to have a bill for you next session on that, by the way. And it's known for its pain and a lot of other issues, GI issues, neurological issues. So I use cannabis for pain, for appetite, for seizures, and I would not be before you without it. I might not be alive without it. The reason I felt compelled by my circumstances, by the above perhaps, to be here and work on this issue is because I can't use flour or edibles don't work for me. I have to vaporize. So I must commit a felony every day in order to appear before you.
And I completely understand how she feels when she says that edibles do not work for her, because edibles do not work for me either. I found that out a long time ago the hard way whenever I was trying to quit smoking cannabis and find a healthier alternative. And I just found out that the gummies and the edibles did not work for me. And it was very unfortunate. So for a time I went back to vaporizing and smoking up until my recent court date.
And I've been coming up here and saying that under oath for years, that's the only
My recent arrest, my bad.
reason I'm able to be here. I'm forced to do that. And every 2 years I come back and tell y'all how many thousands of Texans have been arrested, many of them children. I appreciate you pointing that out. Not the dealers, many of them are young people trying to kick off their lives. Many thousands of them are arrested each time, and each time I come back. So I'm asking, I know this is a difficult area. You have more education. Frank, I don't mean that disrespectfully. It's a hard area. Until you know the difference between colloquially CBD or the cannabinoid CBD, you have no business voting for this.
She's absolutely right. If you don't know the difference between colloquial CBD and the cannabinoid CBD, you have no business making an opinion on this. Don't, because you're not educated enough on the cannabinoids that are actually being used to treat people. You need to do your research if you don't know the difference. I encourage you, please look it up and educate yourself, because you will learn a lot about cannabis and hemp that you didn't before. I, for one, learned a lot about certain risks with cannabis that I didn't learn before or didn't know before. I decided to go and start researching information to support legalization and help with activism on this. So she's 100% right. If you are a Texas elected official, please, I encourage you to do your research on cannabinoids. Please, don't just listen to what Dan Patrick has told you. Listen to what science says. You will understand a lot more about the truths of cannabinoids from science than you will from people who are fear-mongering like Dan Patrick.
Respectfully. And so on behalf of RLC, I ask you to give me some time to explain more of this to you and discuss how we could have a good policy, because this is just not enough time. And please read their very, very thoughtful comments on why SB5 is an incredibly bad idea.
Okay, thank you. Members, any questions for this panel? Representative Schaffner.
Thank you. Read whose comments on why it's bad?
Republican Liberty Caucus,
Okay.
some of the members, including, I believe, the chair of the party, and I did, some other things that I didn't say here, posted some comments and thoughts on the bill. And we just respectfully ask that you give us an appointment to discuss those concerns. It's going to be bad for Texas as a business. Our business reputation will be trashed. I was at a pool party this weekend with a whole bunch of people who made a whole bunch of money making stuff in this state. Isn't that cool? And they had no idea, and they were appalled. And actually had one said, well, I won't be moving the next thing here. And every one of them, when I told them, sorry about your vapes, they said, oh, I'll just start smoking again.
You hear that? It's not gonna stop. When you ban this, it's not going to stop. They are going to find dealers. And maybe those specific dealers aren't working with the cartel, but they have to get their weed from somewhere. And maybe the next person in the chain is just growing on their own. But that's not going to be everybody. Not everybody has the room and the resources and the money to take care of a large amount of cannabis plants to use for cultivation and to push. If they did, you would see a lot more people trying to grow cannabis. But that takes a lot of time, money, and effort to keep and maintain these plants at a high quality. And when you leave it to the cartels, they produce lower quality bud sometimes, just because they know people will just buy any kind of weed they can get. Bottom of the barrel, dog weed, horrible stuff. It's not gonna stop. All you're gonna do is arrest a bunch of people and even children who are going out to a dealer and buying this instead of being stopped by the adults around them, because this is regulated and it is controlled.
So people are going to still do it. We can regulate this and improve. All the harms you heard of, all of them today in every hearing talk about the fake stuff. This makes the real thing criminal and pushes us towards more fake stuff. Not only will you not hear more of those stories, you will hear more of them. My father treated substance abuse disorder for many, many decades. The earlier mother you heard from is accurate. The cannabis use psychosis wasn't a thing until prohibition, and then we created all the fake stuff. That will have higher doses, even higher in a ban. You'll have higher doses directed at kids with the labels, no age gate, no nothing. You'll see more of those harms. I promise you. I really believe that. Which is why people are home praying right now that you guys will listen to this and not do this. Conservatives are praying.
The one thing that does bother me about these testimonies is something that I've brought up several times in this stream. The cartels. This brings money back to the cartels. It makes the cartels stronger when we have this criminalized. Ask anybody. They don't want cartels to be stronger unless they're a cartel member themselves. Because they benefit from the tax-free money, from the criminal money. It's all cash. They benefit from us having this illegal, and that needs to be harped on. This doesn't save Texans. It puts Texans at more risk.
Any other questions? Representative Pearson.
Thank you. Ms. Miller, this is what I've been trying to draw out all day. I've spent several years in mental health and substance abuse clinics, and it's not going away. So we've got to figure out what to do here. I mean, it's not an option to just ignore it. I've heard testimony of people saying, well, if we don't get a ban, we want the status quo. The status quo is not acceptable to me, personally. Just as a person, as a mom, as someone who's in charge of helping guide public health for Texas, it's clear the status quo is failing our children, it's failing our parents, it's failing legitimate businesses.
No, it's not. The lack of regulation is. There are some stores that, yeah, they'll have signs that say you need to be 21 and up, but they will sell to people who clearly look under 21 and not ID. It's not the fact that people are using this, it's the fact that there are stores and places where they don't have much regulation and they can just willy-nilly do whatever they want. And if they get caught, well, it's not a big deal because it's legal and there's not that much regulation. The regulation that is here is stores have policies on what you can and cannot buy. That's not enough. We need state and legal regulation.
So I want to ask some questions to those of you who are in business. I understand how it will impact you financially, but what I've been hearing a lot of when it comes to the psychosis, I've been trying to flesh this out. Unfortunately, we haven't had a medical panel yet, so I've been holding on to some of those questions. But it sounds to me like we are talking about illegal substances that are being sold at some of these shops. Is that what you've heard? I want to know what you guys in the industry are hearing about the complaints of THC psychosis and all of these other issues.
Representative Pearson, what you're hearing about is typically, especially in the streets of Austin, right? We have a large homeless population who deals with a lot of illicit drugs. What they are using are products that have been illegal for more than synthetic products. These are products that are not plant-derived. They're not.
What he was trying to get at before the audio cut out was that there are fake synthetic cannabis products that are illegal that are still being sold on the streets as a sort of either off-brand cannabis or a cannabis alternative. Some of you have heard of some of these drugs called spice or space. These are synthetic cannabinoids that are sprayed on dried leaves of various plants, and these are synthetic cannabinoids that have been studied before and have been proven to cause very real psychological damage. These are not the cannabinoids that are actually being sold in these in a lot of these shops.
Taken from anything that anybody's grown in Texas. There's nothing to do with that. These are created in a lab or a bathtub somewhere and have nothing to do with the products that we are selling in the stores.
And this even has nothing to do with the people who are using some of the synthetic cannabinoids in the state, like converting CBD to Delta 8. This does not include them. This doesn't include the low quality hemp and cannabis products that are being sold and derived in many of these shops. These are illicit, illegal things that have been illegal for a long time that are being sold on the street. They are not being sold in stores. It is a myth that these cannabis psychosis problems are from things coming in stores. That is just not happening.
If they were selling synthetic products in the stores, there would be people in jail, massive amounts of people, regardless of what these officers say. And if they aren't arresting people for having synthetic products in the store, why the hell not? So that's a huge question. I heard you ask that earlier, right? Why are people not in jail? If these are illegal synthetic products, why are we not putting people in jail? But I can tell you right now, living in Austin and dealing with the homeless crisis here and all these people that use these illicit drugs, they're using synthetic products, K2 and Spice. These are products that have been illegal for a long time. The city of Austin, for whatever reason, decides not to enforce any laws on that. That's their own issue. But right now, we're talking about plant-derived hemp products. And these are not products, in my experience, we probably have 500,000 customers in Texas. I have yet to hear one of them complain about one of our products causing psychosis.
you'll hear of people having a bit of anxiety, which is normal, you know, a little bit of anxiety, maybe a little bit of paranoia, but the psychosis and going like bat loose insane, that is K2 and Spice, and I know that that is being peddled by the homeless in Austin. I know that it is. I've seen it myself. I've seen the people smoke it. I've never smoked it myself. I don't know what these products do, because I have seen what looks like some people losing their minds on K2 and Spice, and I don't want that experience. So I don't know what kind of experience people go through, but I do know that's a lot of people on these things just start stripping their clothes sometimes. They go nuts.
And I heard one of the experts up here early, and it sounded like he was eliciting that essentially that comes from pre-existing conditions, right? So if people are experiencing psychosis and already have pre-existing conditions, then I don't know what the medical causation could be, because they already have pre-existing conditions. But everything that I'm hearing sounds like a synthetic product. We see this in Austin all the time. I know you guys see this here when you're here in Austin. These people that are strung out on the streets, they aren't buying this stuff in the stores, despite what you've heard today. I assure you, these products are not being bought in the stores. They're being bought on the streets. They're synthetic, K2 and Spice, and they've been illegal in Texas for over a decade.
And I think that's where I get stuck in all this, because these products are illegal. And, even if we move forward with the ban, the House passed the ban last session, I don't know where we go from there. Do we make it worse by passing a ban, in your opinion?
Yes. You're literally handing an $8 billion industry over to the cartels.
Thank you! Holy fuck, thank you! It's needed to be said. You're handing over the money to the cartels. Thank you!
What do you think they're going to do with it? It's going to be a nightmare. The police sat up here and said they can't enforce this already the way it is. So we're going to now take products that are legally required to be tested and come from licensed manufacturers in Texas. Every product that's sold in a store is tested, has lab results. And we're going to take all these products that are being tested and being vetted and pure of fentanyl and any other garbage that's going to come from products that come across the border, and we're now going to shift that into a completely black market that is now consisting of fentanyl, who knows what else they're putting in these products that are going to be coming across the border. I think it's ridiculous not to assume that the cartels are not going to move into this space and take this over when Texas goes to make these products illegal. It's crazy to think that they're just going to sit there and watch and be like, oh, that's nice they did that. We aren't going to move in and take this $8 billion industry. I would argue right now the cartels, this is the most harm the cartels have had in decades by making these products legal in Texas and putting them in stores, because we're now buying from Texas manufacturers and Texas growers and not buying stuff that's coming across the border through the cartels. I guarantee you the revenues are down because of this.
And law enforcement made a good point, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it. They said if we ban it, then they can just test it, yes, no, end of story, and then that person...
What about the products in the Teacup program, right?
Well, I mean, this is why we're having this discussion. We have to figure this out.
So that doesn't make any sense at all to me, the sense... and this has been brought up multiple times today. DSHS receives about $1.6 million per year from the state licenses, right? There's about 8,500 licenses. They get about $1.6 million per year. The information has been made public through an information request to the state that only about 30% of those funds are actually being used in the program. The rest of that money is going back to the state general fund. Why? So then there's a complaint of they don't have the resources to do enforcement, but they aren't even using the friggin' money. So
they don't have the resources to enforce it because they're not using the fucking money to enforce it. That's the fucking problem.
What's the deal here? Like, are we being serious about this, or is this a joke? And I don't mean that for you guys. I mean just in general within the state. Like, if we're going to be serious about this, give them the resources to actually do enforcement, right? Like, they have the resources to do it. And if we need to raise the license fees, we can raise the license fees. License fees are cheap. We're talking like $250 per license per year. That's dirt cheap. I mean, I don't think anybody in this industry would have a problem if we 4x that. right? And multiply that. I mean, 4 times 1.6 million. We're getting up to $6 million a year. If they can't do enforcement on $6 million a year, which is a very reasonable increase in license fees, I don't understand where the issue would be. So I think there's a lot of very simple solutions that could be done within this industry. We've been pushing for an age gate since 2021 and have never had the opportunity to pass it, and there's been constant fight back on it within the political side for a variety of reasons, which you guys can sort of have those discussions behind closed doors. I don't want to speak out of turn, but we have been pushing for an age gate since 2021, and we have been denied every single session. That's a very simple solution to a lot of the things that are being brought up today, is let's make these products 21 and up. That's very simple. Let's increase the licensing fees, give DSHS the actual resources they need to do enforcement, and stop ripping all the money out of their program and putting it back in the state general fund to where they actually have the money to do the enforcement.
And that is a good point. Let's make it 21 and up, because right now, if I were to go to one of the stores that I used to go to, they would only sell to me because I'm 21 and up, and that's because I chose those stores. I chose those stores because they chose to enforce that regulation. I want it to be regulated the same way that alcohol is regulated. So therefore, I do not go to stores that sell to anyone that is under 21. If they sell to somebody who is 18 but not 21, I do not want to go to that store. That is a problem. I think we should be regulating this and having an age gate, and I think that it is ridiculous that this state absolutely refuses to allow an age gate law for these products. It is simple, sensible legislation and regulation, and they absolutely fucking refuse to do a goddamn thing about it. It needs to happen. Republicans, Democrats, and Independents unanimously agree that this needs to be regulated. Make it happen.
I think I heard something the other day that they were up to like 4 to 6 agents for 8,500 licenses, and they said it would take a decade to do all the inspections. That's crazy. Let's give them the resources to actually hire the agents they need. The testing is already required. We do full panel testing on every single product. We spend probably about $100,000 a year on full panel testing. It is insanely expensive. We test for microbials, heavy metals, pesticides, harmful constituents. Every possible thing that you can test for on the cannabis side, we test for, and we publish those results on every product that we sell with a QR code. Every single product that a consumer buys from us, and this is not just us, almost every company in the state does this. We have some issues with out-of-state companies, which I think need to be addressed and can be addressed simply by forcing more of the businesses to operate within Texas. Also, that helps Texas and brings more jobs. This industry created 53,000 jobs in Texas. Let's double it. If you start taking and enforcing these companies to operate in Texas, one, it's easier to regulate, and two, you're going to put more money and more jobs back in the Texas economy. This is a time period where I think this is very, very important in how this committee acts and what you guys do. And this is literally creating the future of Texas. And I plead you guys to really take this seriously and understand that whether or not everybody likes it or not, the sort of cat is out of the bag with this. And the ideal scenario is if in 2021 where the politicians were not happy with this, that should have been handled back then. This industry is now massive. I'm disappointed that it's been let to go this far and not addressed, because realistically, if there are political sides of this that didn't want this industry, it should have been handled in 2021. Why was it not made illegal then? Why was it not shut back down? And here we are in 2025, 53,000 jobs. Many people have their entire livelihoods tied up in this industry because it's been allowed to be legal. It's been legal for 6 years now. You can't blame these people for wanting to be a part of this industry and actually putting their life resources into it when it's been given to them as a legal product. And so now to sit in this and hear, both sides really looking at, the legality of this and trying to shut down the industry, I just think a full ban at this point doesn't make any sense whatsoever, and for the variety of reasons that we discussed. But you're literally going to create a massive market for the cartel that is going to cause the largest influx of fentanyl into Texas that you've probably ever seen. And I'm tired of seeing the billboards on the freeways from all the fentanyl deaths. I'm tired of it, and it has nothing to do with these products. All we're going to do is enable the cartels to do more of that, and it kills my soul to think of that.
And then, so what do you have to say then to the families, to the parents who feel like this industry has destroyed their lives?
I hate to say it, but I believe in most cases there are predisposed mental conditions that may, whether they're worsened by hemp products or THC products or marijuana products, which they're all the same thing, by the way. They all come from the same plant, which I think you really gets lost in a lot of these discussions. Hemp and marijuana are both cannabis, and they both come from the same plant. The government regulates it as cannabis sativa L. The L is a long Latin word, but it's the same plant. It's exactly the same thing. The products being sold in the Texas Compassionate Use Program and the hemp program are exactly the same in almost every way.
Thank you. Did you want to add to that?
Yeah, actually, I mean, this guy's hard to follow, right? I did want to add a few things, especially on resources for enforcement. We are regulated. Honestly, there is a structure to it. The enforcement's what's lacking, and I'll bring up an example. We are showing up here, putting our name and our business name and everything out there into the public. We're opening ourselves up to more attention inevitably. We know this, and it's been proven because ever since companies have started to come up here, there's been increased visits, there's been increased inspections and enforcement, and we continue to pass with flying colors, and we continue to show up here. And if we have 8 enforcement agents for the manufacturers, which also regulate the retails, by the way, 8 people for the entire state. If we had 16, would that break the bank, and it would double enforcement be something that we're not willing to do? It doesn't have to be something crazy like tens of thousands of enforcement agents coming around, chasing every complaint. There are people out there, obviously, that are coming to the table. We're putting our neck out for even increased exposure. And we continue to, again, meet all the regulations, all the guidelines, all the standards, all the testing procedures. So I think the idea that we're not regulated or that you can't get it under control is just not true.
Thank you. Go ahead.
May I address the psychosis especially? I'm just a caveman lawyer. I'm not a doctor, but something you'll notice, having grown up around the head shrinkers, they taught me this. The conditions where psychosis is a symptom, the mental illness, tend to show up in late teens and early 20s. And you will find a lot of these stories coincide and show up in that age range when that tends to show up. You'll have, not to say that the cannabis use isn't a trigger or a breakup or sexual assault. I mean,
Bro, this is so dumb. All they need to do is legalize weed and ban alcohol, but many of these guys are drunkards who would never ban alcohol despite its known effect on communities. This is so fucking true. Like, I've had problems with alcohol, which is what my charge is related to. That's why I can't use anything except for my prescriptions that my doctor gives me. I had my life ruined easily by alcohol. Now, granted, I made a lot of decisions to keep drinking. And it is my own fault, yes. But had the alcohol not been there and freely accessible, I probably would have gone to some other type of solution, and who knows, I may have gone to a very healthy solution and probably would have never gotten arrested in the first place. But yet they keep this and they allow it. And most importantly, I need to preface this and keep this as a very big point that I want to harp on. In the state of Texas, we are one of the highest states to have the most DUI arrests. Okay? On top of that, we are one of the biggest states to have DUI-related fatalities. I have seen cops in this state let people go while they have open containers in their car. I have seen people fail sobriety tests, and cops still let these people go off. It is so rampant that not only are we the highest in arrests and fatalities for DUI-related crimes, but we also let people go frequently, and I see it. I've seen it over and over again. The one time I saw somebody who had an open container in his car get arrested was when I was working at a fast food place at a drive-thru. And this guy was drunk in his big truck and said, "You want me to do a burnout?" And I said, "Hey man, I don't recommend that you do a burnout in this parking lot. I really don't. That's gonna cause some trouble. You do whatever you want, but just to let you know, I warned you. Please do not do a burnout in this parking lot." The drive-thru had a turn to come out, and there was a light pole. He decided to do a burnout, go around the corner, and he smashed and knocked over the light pole. And I guarantee you, he was only arrested because there were damages to company property. I guarantee it. That is the only time I have ever seen somebody get arrested with an open container in their car. They only care about people when they're in accidents and when people die. It's disgusting, and I am sick and fucking tired of this pathetic state trying to act like it's so great, like it has so many fucking freedoms, but they want to take away our ability to use cannabis while we have the highest amount, one of the highest amounts of DUI arrests and DUI fatalities. Who knows, we may even have the highest rate of letting people go with open containers. I can fucking probably guarantee that. Because it is fucking sad and pathetic how the police act in this state sometimes. I'm not even kidding. It is disgraceful. So many people are proud of Texas, but quite frankly, I am not proud of this state. This state, for as much pride as it has, needs to do better. I want to love this state. I really do. But in order for that to happen, this state needs to be better. And it's gonna start with more regulation on the hemp and cannabis industry, not banning it. It's going to start with more sensible approaches to DUI-related arrests, not imprisonment, shame, and guilt, which causes repeat offenders like myself, which is why I refuse to do a state-sponsored program. I decided to go and get a new doctor, a psychiatrist, and a therapist to work on my addiction issues. I am not going and doing some state-sponsored bullshit where last time all they did was fill me with shame and guilt and never tried to get to the root of the problem. This state has several issues that need to be addressed.
Any number of things, substance use, but that's what you will see. And a lot of times you'll see these kids beginning to struggle, and then there's some self-medication, and I'm not saying that's successful, but I challenge.
And I self-medicated for a long time. I self-medicated with cannabis and I self-medicated with alcohol. And I'm glad that pretty soon I'm going to be seeing a psychiatrist to start getting help with that. So that way I can really address my problems and move forward.
You to look around and find some where the cannabis use disorder shows up in little old ladies and stuff, that it's that age range that you'll see it again and again.
Yeah, that's a very valid point. There is a trend there, which is why I'm trying to get to the bottom of it. Very familiar with late onset schizophrenia, which could be also drug induced earlier, but I'm looking for patterns here. So thank you for that.
Representative Cunningham?
Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Gilley, you pretty much started answering some of the questions that I had because I'm reading your statement here.
Yes, sir.
And you kind of outlined that the products sold in the compassionate use program is identical to what's being sold legally, and I guess that would be your products.
Yes, sir.
And so I guess the difference to me, and maybe you can help me, from the compassionate use, that program is more in a controlled environment.
I believe that is a myth that we're led to believe.
Okay,
Most of the
that's what I'm saying.
doctors-
That's what I'm saying. Just correct me now.
Yes, sir.
Because
My understanding, and we've tried to get the information on any kind of training that the doctors have had in that program, and my understanding is those doctors have little to no training whatsoever on prescribing marijuana within that program.
okay, so but on the other hand, though, you're telling me you're constantly having testing that's being done.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We have internal testing and we have third-party testing done as well. We spend over $100,000 a year on full panel testing.
Okay, so even though the compassionate use probably has no testing and they're just measuring out dosages or whatever.
They are, the companies within the compassionate use program are responsible for their own testing. They report to themselves. If there's an adverse issue on one of their products, they literally report it to themselves.
Okay. One of the other things that you mentioned also, too, is that you've been trying for some time, and it appears that I'll put myself in there, have been kind of ignoring you, that you've been trying to get an age limit of 21.
Yes, sir.
Now, with that age limit, are we trying to say that these products, there are some concerns with them, with certain ages?
No, sir. It's more
You say
so.
yes
It's
and you
more
say
so
no.
just a formality. So
a
right
formality.
now, like the lieutenant governor went into a store right near our office, tried to buy product, and they ID'd him. He was trying to prove that they weren't IDing, and they did ID him.
Gotcha.
I do not believe that children have access to these products right now the way the industry is set up. I believe everybody's doing child-proof packaging already. We're IDing.
There are a lot of stores that are definitely doing IDing and checking. If you go to a place that... What are you doing, dog? Anyways, if you go to a specific place that sells normally just hemp products, you'll go in, they'll have edibles, they will have tinctures, they will have drinks, they will have smokables, they will have vapables. Those are usually the places that will always enforce 21 and up. There is a local shop here in Texas, a local smoke shop chain called Planet K. I used to work for them. We ID everybody over there. Okay? When I was working there, that was what we did. We ID'd everybody. And while we are kind of a gift shop and we have sections for like kids' toys and stuff, there are sections that are closed off that if somebody does bring their child, we tell them, hey, your child has to stay over there in the gift shop section. They can't be behind where all of the smoking products are. They can't be behind where all of the adult items are. We can't have them there. Your child needs to stay over there. So either have them in the car if you're by yourself or have somebody else watch them over there, and then you can come over to us and we can take care of you. We would ID absolutely everybody. And we had several times where 18-year-olds and 19-year-olds would come into the store and try to buy nicotine after Texas had made the smoking age to 21 instead of 18, and we had to reject every single one of them. And we had a lot of angry young adults that were like, this is bullshit, I'm 18, I can defend my country, but I can't smoke a cigarette. We have a lot of those people, and to a degree, I can kind of understand where they're coming from. But at the same time, we really do need these age regulations in place. And a lot of these stores are doing 21 and up. But the problem is that these are just suggestions. These are not hard laws in place. There are smoke shops and head shops that are not Planet K, that are not Smoke and Chill. And they sell to 18-year-olds. And sometimes they don't even card at all. If you just look old enough, they will sell it to you and not even ask for your ID, which is a huge problem. We do have small stores that do this. And the problem is that it's not a hard written law to actually make sure that these products are only sold to adults. I don't believe that these products should be in the hands of children unless a doctor actually approves it and prescribes cannabis for these children.
We're doing the things that we need to, but in terms of a legality issue and legislatively, there is no 1325. HB 1325 was not passed with an age limit. So we are trying to be proactive as an industry to do the right thing and go put that into place.
Yes, ma'am. I'll let it go this time.
We've had bills that would have done that had the votes, and I won't drop names. I don't have to. Certain powers.
You already did when you said we had bills, so.
Yeah, right. But I mean, they were taken that had the votes to get this regulation we're talking about done in earlier sessions.
Right.
And because of things, people decided to make a strategic play of, well, let's just wait and see if we can get the ban rather than regulating. And I, like you, find that abhorrent. Respectfully, because we can regulate, minimize the harm, and then they can keep trying to get their ban if they must. But there's no reason for us to continue this harm.
Okay. Well, and back to you, sir. So if I quite understand, try to understand you right, the key in moving forward is not to do a total ban that basically wipes out not only an economy and jobs and things of this nature, but is to put in place, I would probably say, in my own words, regulations that would, well, let me put it this way. Can regulations include banning some materials or substance or
Yeah, I believe the industry would be open to having discussions about that. If there are certain cannabinoids that the legislature is not wanting to exist within Texas, there can be a conversation about that. But
And there is a good point to be had on this. There is a particular cannabinoid called THCP, and it is about 10 times as potent as regular THC that you would smoke from a cannabis plant and get into your system or ingest from an edible. This is an extremely potent cannabinoid compound. And if it is given to somebody who is a first timer and they are not prepared, they can get very much undesired effects and be very much off put instead of being given a much more regulated form that everybody's used to, everybody knows. You can just ease into it. You can start with a smaller dose and then work your way up every couple of hours if you don't feel right or don't feel like it's enough. I believe that would be great because we do have certain cannabinoids that are just stupid powerful and incredibly strong that I think we a lot of people would not mind regulation to that. I think some people would be opposed, but I don't think majority of people would be opposed to regulating certain types of cannabinoids.
just to be clear, synthetic products are already illegal. These wouldn't be synthetic.
Right,
These would be
right.
plant-derived.
Right.
But I believe the industry would be open to having a conversation and trying to find a happy medium.
Right. And so just to get sure, because I'm looking at something that one of the mothers sent me in, and you're on one of these pages here.
I'm usually him.
That's good. You're not producing synthetic products.
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Frank.
Yeah, just a quick question. I think one of the questions is really, can we intelligently regulate it? I think when you listen to the law enforcement, the real question is, can you intelligently regulate it? Do you have the ability to do that with testing, that kind of stuff? The one thing I was just going to maybe push back on a little bit, because you said, all this growth has been based on legal, right? Like, we made it legal and now we're making it illegal. Well, from what I can tell, the vast majority of the growth has actually been because people are selling stuff that is not legal, that it is actually impacting people, it is getting them high, because the stuff that has been legal has been the less than 0.3, right?
Correct.
And that is very hard to take enough. You can, but it's very hard to take enough to actually.
That's completely incorrect.
Completely false.
Okay, so everybody else is wrong.
Yes, that's completely incorrect.
Completely
So it's 0.3% on a dry weight basis, Delta 9 THC, specifically Delta 9 THC, which is the single cannabinoid. Like, if you go buy a product in Colorado or California or Oklahoma or any of these states, that's typically what the cannabinoid is that's going to get you high. There are other cannabinoids that have psychoactive effects. Delta 9 is the most prominent. That is the one that is highly recognized as, if it's getting you high from cannabis, it's typically referred to as Delta 9. 0.3% on a dry weight basis goes by the weight. So if you have a 6-gram gummy, for example, you can have up to 18 milligrams of Delta 9 THC in that 6-gram gummy. Now, this scales with weight. And I think this is something that gets lost in sort of understanding this. That Delta 9 amount scales with the weight of the product.
He is absolutely right. The products that are here that are sold with Delta 9 THC, which is considered illegal, it has to be 0.3% by weight of the product. And I learned that whenever I was working at that Planet K shop. If you have a Rice Krispie treat and it weighs 100 grams, and it weighs, I'm bad at math. It weighs 1 gram, then 0.3%, so 30% of that would be Delta 9 cannabis products. That can get you high. That can absolutely get you high. 30 milligrams will get you high. Don't think that this is, going to be a safe way to, regulate the products to not get people high, but still get the effects. No. The whole point of the psychoactive effects is that the psychoactive effect is the benefit in some sort of way for some people. It may not be for all. Some people may just use CBD and they don't need that psychoactive component. And that's okay. But for some people, that psychoactive component is the healing part. I need you guys to understand this who don't. People who have epileptic seizures that get their seizures stopped by cannabis, those people are stoned. I need you to keep that in mind. This is not a little bit of cannabis that won't get them high, but will be enough to stop their seizures. That doesn't exist. These people are fucking stoned. That's how it stops the seizures. The psychoactive component is what stops the seizures. That's what some of you regulators need to understand. The psychoactive component is the healing component in certain conditions, not in every condition. And I believe that there is some room to talk about which specific cannabinoid can be treated for specific ailments. I believe that is something that we can go and work on and discover. But to say that you can get a little bit of a psychoactive component, just enough to where it's in your body but it doesn't feel it and you still get all of the benefits, no. The epileptics who take seizures take anywhere from 1 to 2 milligrams of a benzodiazepine a day. That can be Xanax, that can be Klonopin, that can be, I believe it's Valium. I'm not sure. Yeah, it's Valium, because Vicodin is the one that's an opiate-based. So yeah, you'll have 1 to 2 milligrams of like some very potent drugs that stop these seizures, and these people are what we would call barred out. Whenever people take benzodiazepines on the street, whenever they're not prescribed it, and they're all, that's what we call barred out. They are on a lot of benzodiazepines and are really high. If you give the same 2 milligram dose to an epileptic patient that's been taking these benzos to stop their seizures for years, they're going to be perfectly normal because their body has regulated and adjusted to that. It's the same thing with a cannabis product. Yeah, if you're freshly prescribed a cannabis product and you start taking 30 milligrams, you're gonna get really, really high. But if you take that same 30 milligrams every day as you're prescribed, as you're supposed to, it evens out the playing field in your body and you're able to function like a normal person. In the same way that benzodiazepines and their psychoactive component can help people with seizures, the psychoactive component of cannabis can help people with seizures, Parkinson's, and many other diseases.
So you can't really say anything less than 0.3% is not going to get you high, anything higher will, because you could have a 1 gram gummy that has a substantially less amount of THC than a 6 gram gummy, and one will get you high and one may not. Does that make sense?
No, but yeah, I'm sure it does to you.
I apologize. We've been doing this for a long time.
I mean, part of it, I've tried to do research online and everything, and pretty consistently, it's like the 0.3. And I will say it does appear like when people put those in place, and certainly when the legislation was passed here, it was more agriculture, and the intent was, hey, this is not, an intent doesn't matter, right? Like what gets written matters. But the intent was, hey, this is for agriculture use. We're trying to make sure not to punish agriculture, but it was put low to try to get where it wasn't impacting people as much. Would you agree that that was likely the reason it was put in place?
The documents I've seen around HB 1325, the politicians knew that THC was present in hemp.
Of course.
I don't know if it was fully understood the amount, but if you go back to the federal farm bill, where all this came from, because Texas copied the federal farm bill,
right.
I think it's been made pretty clear over the years that their intent was to legalize hemp and everything of it, not just from an industrial agricultural standpoint, but to actually create a thriving industry. And so if Texas copied that, I would argue then I don't think it was just for the agriculture side if it was copied from the farm bill, which it was.
So it was a threat. So it was basically as much, because it just seems to me like the industry has grown based on how badly it could either, in some cases, say it's less than 3 and then produce whatever, and then obviously, you know, you would acknowledge there is a lot of stuff sold under incorrect labeling.
No, I actually disagree with that. So our full
all the law enforcement going in and doing that, they're just lying to us, or what?
A lot of times
8,000 different stores.
A lot of times they don't understand what they're saying, and
I have to agree with this. As much as it can make me angry with what cops do and say, I truthfully believe that a lot of the police officers and the people that are trying to enforce these regulations do not understand what the hemp bill is, what it meant. They don't understand the cannabinoid laws around Delta-9 and other cannabinoids, and it's causing a lot of problems and serious contention. And a lot of that comes from the lack of resources that the DSHS is giving to these industries to help educate the police officers on what is legal and what is not illegal. We need to have these resources allocated so that way things like this do not happen.
I don't mean to be rude. I have a love for law enforcement. I think they're wonderful people, but they are not experts. And I trust what the chemists say more than what the law enforcement gentlemen say, because there are some very fine caveats in this and how words are used. It got brought up today multiple times with synthetic and synthesis. There are words that are being misused in this and misconstrued that confuse a lot of people and make us all trying to figure out what the hell is going on with this. And it's not that complicated. And I believe, I tend to trust the chemists more than the law enforcement people, the people that are actually doing the testing and looking at the products and trying to understand this. Those gentlemen and the people that I heard today that were the chemists made the most sense to me.
Okay. Well, and I think that law enforcement is using chemists and getting this
They're
information.
saying different things in a lot of cases, though.
Okay. I think this may go back to the, I find when people can't see the other side of the issue, and that seems to be where you are on this, but that's fine.
May I?
No. Whoever the hell you are, James, you're the one that's not understanding the other side of the point. We understand the other side of the point completely on our side. You don't understand shit. You don't understand dick. This is why these people are here in front of you, to try to explain to you the shit that you don't know and understand.
Add a point, Representative Frank, just about the percentages and whatnot. I think part of what confuses people so much about this is that they're equating alcohol percentages to cannabis percentages, whereas we need to be looking at cannabis more so like the way that we dose, I don't know, Tylenol, right? We're not looking at like what percentage that Tylenol is ibuprofen. We're looking at the 200 milligrams of Tylenol like per dosage. And so I think that's probably a misunderstanding, which has caused a failure within the policy. That at the end of the day, cannabis acts more like something that's dosed by milligram more so than it is like dosed by percentage, if that makes sense.
No, sorry, that does make sense. So what gets you high with the 0.3? Mm-hmm. How many milligrams?
So it is arbitrary. So with that 0.3, you can go anywhere from like you can have a super giant Advil, right, and that's going to have a million milligrams of ibuprofen, or you can have like that tiny Advil, which is only going to have 200 milligrams of ibuprofen, regardless of it, because there'll be the same concentration of ibuprofen in both those giant and tiny tablets, right? But at the end of the day, that giant tablet is going to kill you, and that tiny tablet won't.
So how would you tell somebody how potent the THC is? You're saying
based on the
milligram,
based on the milligrams that are in the package. So let's say a gummy has 50 milligrams. I would say that the product should be regulated based on the amount of milligrams in that package, not on the percentage.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Representative Schaffner.
So what's the milligram would you suggest?
So, there's different guidelines done by different, doctors and researchers. But, as someone mentioned earlier, a lot of the starting doses on the teacup program are probably around 5 milligrams to 10 milligrams. But, that kind of depends on the condition and the weight of the person, how large their brain is, et cetera, et cetera. Someone can try 5 milligrams for the first time and get super high. Someone can try 100 milligrams for the first time and not feel anything. So it's really dependent on the person's biochemistry and their weight and other factors.
Okay, I had another question. Now, with the teacup program, where are they getting their product?
They grow their own product. They grow their own flower. Yeah.
In their own fields, in their own whatever. But you're saying that the doctors don't know what they're doing with the
so they were supposed to be producing their own flower. There's lawsuits going on alleging that they might be getting out-of-state flour legally. But yes, by law, they are supposed to be producing their own flour and extracting it themselves and producing their own products.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So I heard your exchange with Representative Frank, and I'm tracking now because honestly, I've learned way more about this than I ever wanted to.
This is what happens when you start showing up to representatives and start pushing back on propaganda and bullshit. Especially when you get someone who is not like me. Definitely not like me. Somebody who is calm, cool-headed, professional, who can talk about this. I'm great for a YouTuber standpoint, but I'm not great for activism on the front lines in actual committees trying to talk about this. I swear too much. I would get angry way too easily and start trying to fucking fling names. I would not be good with this, but this is why we need people like Hometown Hero to keep pushing back on things like this and to keep pushing out the facts of what's going on, because This lady is now speaking that she's hopefully understanding some things that she had some misconceptions about. And hopefully when I press play, it leads in a good direction. Notice he has 0 questions to his own admissions, failed to understand the rep, 0 accountability. Facts. Good asking questions, now we're getting somewhere. Yeah, dude, for real.
But I think I have a better understanding now because the confusion is the 0.3%. It's all 0.3%. It's just in dosages of milligrams. So the percentage stays the same. It's just the weight that is determining the dosage. And Ms. Hayes left us a nice chart about what other states are doing, and they're actually capping dosages, not percentages per se. Is that accurate? She's shaking her head. Thank you. And that's something we have not discussed yet at this point. So thank you for reminding me to bring this up. And you said teacup is 5 milligrams to what? I think it goes to 5 to 10. Is that what it is?
Starting off, yeah, depending on the condition, that's completely up to the doctor's discretion. Right now, I believe we're capped at 1%, which kind of gives the doctor discretion. There is, with the new teacup expansion going in September 1st, that will be changed to a 10 milligram cap, where the doctor can kind of decide how many 10 milligram caps you get, if that makes sense. It's still kind of wonky in terms of the policy. It's really confusing. But yeah, I guess, so to go back, yeah, I mean, some people need 5 milligrams for anxiety and some people need 100 milligrams for PTSD. It really depends on the condition and their biochemistry.
And so it made a lot more sense after hearing this discussion when we have the Deputy Commissioner of Dishes, because I asked the question, well, if all these complaints are coming in about these dosages, why are we not arresting people? And he said, because they're legal.
Yeah.
And they're legal because of the 0.3%.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm getting this now. So when we see something that's, if you have a product that's 25 milligrams, it's still 0.3%. It's just 25 milligrams.
Yes, ma'am.
So would you be...
Keep in mind, this is about Delta 9 THC. What's not being discussed here is the fact that there are other cannabinoids that have profiles that contain psychoactivity. So this would be talking about specifically Delta 9, but this is not talking about other cannabinoids that the state is legally selling. And I think that's going to be another contention point that's going to be an issue as the debates of these bills goes on.
Be open to a cap on milligrams?
We've actually had discussions about that in the past, but it didn't go anywhere. But yeah, I'm very open as an industry. I believe that we're all open to having any kind of compromise discussions to make this work and not end up at a full ban.
Okay, yes, go ahead.
I'm going to make a point too on the milligram versus the percentage, that it is an option. I think, again, that's just something that is arbitrary for the individual. So 5 milligrams for me might be a high dose, but 25 milligrams for him might be nothing. And there's ways to get around that. So I just have to go buy more, eat more. I think that is focusing on capping the amount in a package is a distraction from regulating what's in it, how it's made, where it's sold. So I think
that is a very good point that he brought up. I'm glad that he brought that up to push that back.
that's kind of something that other markets have failed with, because it's not so much, it's not really related to, oh, I only had 3 milligrams, so I'm okay. It's just like I can have one beer and be okay, or not. I mean, it depends on my chemistry. It's the same thing in liquor stores. You know, there's different dosages and levels of potency, and consumers can read the package and see if it's from an honest, legitimate company. They can see exactly what's in it, how much is in there, and what the serving size is. I have a product where the serving size is one piece of a larger piece, but we're very clear about that. And that's based on person to person. If you're not being careful about what you put in your body, when you put it in your body, how it's made, and doing some research, I do that with my food. I do, right? So I'm making those decisions as a consumer. So the milligram and then the percentage is kind of a distraction. The percentage comes from agriculture. Again, I'm a farmer, because we needed a threshold of what signifies this being a federally legal hemp crop versus a federally illegal marijuana crop.
Right.
federally illegal marijuana can get up to 1, 5, 10+%. Ours has to always remain below that 0.3. It's just that potency threshold that I think is important, but making it a milligram or throwing some arbitrary number that we choose is not the real solution. It's how it's made, where it's made, how it's sold, where it's sold, who it's sold to. All of those issues are things that I think this legislature can get a handle on without having to dive into the minutia and chemistry as much as what has maybe been already presented today.
The alcohol industry has made the percentages work. I don't believe they have serving sizes, and they also don't use milligrams or grams of ethanol in terms of the dosing. So they have made that work, and I believe they've sort of set the standard with that. And that's sort of how this ended up being where it is with cannabis and with hemp.
Exactly. We modeled the hemp and cannabis industry after the alcohol lobby by percentages of cannabinoids, just like percentages of alcohol. If it's good enough for alcohol, why is it not good enough for cannabis and cannabinoids? I'm open to having this discussion with people. I'm pretty sure these people are open to having discussions about that as well. And maybe see if maybe we need to change how we regulate cannabis from alcohol, or maybe keep it more the same of how we regulate cannabis and alcohol. I think, yes, we need to have more discussions, and I think that Hometown Hero and these people that are up on this committee are definitely a lot more professional and know a lot more about how to move forward with these kind of regulations than I do. Just somebody who is just sitting in his room yapping about cannabis and hemp.
But, we're open to having discussions and finding a happy medium to make the legislature happy. Yeah.
Again, I'm just looking at all the options that we have available to
Yes,
us. So would it be fair to say that a lot of the people who see these things, packaging is horrible, by the way, on some of these products when they're
Totally.
marketing them?
That's one of the things that we wanted to address and get some packaging updates, some clear guidance on good packaging for Texas.
Agreed. A lot of the illegal packaging of illegal products is very colorful. Has a lot of very cool and appealing designs for very young people, and I think that just like with vape juice and stuff, we need to have it a very bland label of what it is. It needs to say, what strain of cannabis it is. It needs to have the milligrams and the percentages of what cannabinoids are in it. It needs to have the company name or logo. It cannot be big and flashy like we see with some of these other products. I remember seeing in some of the other products that are illegal on the market that there are, what's it called? Not Frosted Flakes, Cocoa Flakes or something like that. The Flintstones cereal. They made a cannabis vape cartridge that tasted like the Flintstones chocolate cereal. And they had, the chocolate cereal that was on the box cover is the art. It had the Flintstones on it, which I don't even know how the hell they were able to get that legal. But yeah, that's something that I agree needs to be addressed and needs to be changed. It just needs to be plain packaging that shows you what the hell it is, and nothing trying to be colorful or trying to catch your attention in any sort of way, because that was the main problem with vapes and children and young teens, was the fact that a lot of these vape cartridges and disposables were like really colorful and had like really artsy and creative stuff to try to appeal to as many young kids as possible. And while I don't think the flavors are necessarily a bad thing, I think the way that it was advertised is a bad thing. And I think it causes the same problem with cannabis products as well.
We've also already seen nicotine vapes and other things in
There we go. Like I just said.
consumable markets. They can't use fruit. They can't use celebrities. That's stuff that's easy to abide by. Again, I can't speak for bad actors, but as a good actor myself, we already do all of that.
And so, speaking of the bad actors, the high potency stuff is the issue. I mean, this is what law enforcement's talking about. They're testing 70% you name it. Do you know where these products are coming from? Because if it's
Here's the problem with that. The 70%, if you get a vape cartridge and it says it is 70% THC by weight of its concentrate, you're supposed to be dosing that by like small little puffs, like once a day, maybe twice a day. But you're not supposed to be constantly smoking it and getting that full 70% of the cannabinoids just constantly running through your system. Again, it's not the fact that it is a high potency and high concentration of marijuana or cannabis that is the issue. It is the fact that people are going and intentionally taking way too much than they're supposed to of the products that they are. They're taking too big of a serving size and they're getting way too high and they're getting way too uncomfortable. It's not the percentages, it's how much people are consuming.
it's not being made here, if our farms are being checked, and apparently we've had testimony saying that they are checked at this 0.3%, where are these high potency products coming from and how are they getting into the stores? Is there any talk in the industry about where it's coming from?
A
and
lot
what
of
we
them
can
are
do
coming
about
from
it?
California. And
So it's coming in from out of state?
Yes, ma'am. And that's what I was saying. If we focus on making this industry more Texan focused from sort of seed to finished sale in the stores, if we focus on making this industry really Texan all the way, it will completely change everything and make it much more easily enforceable.
I don't want products from any other state or any other country. I do know that there are things like that on the market. We combat cartels and other states around us and all kinds of other black market and sometimes the government to operate and keep people safe and keep providing safe products. A lot of times, like with what I just experienced, where we're getting checked on when we're already out here in the public. We're already explaining who we are, how we do things, inviting people in. We know when we get the license that our doors are unlocked. You can come in anytime, check us out. When resources are spent on the good actors, all these bad actors, they can order whatever from wherever. They can put whatever on their store or on their shelves in their store. So again, where it's made, how it's made, who makes it, where it's sold, how it's sold, who's selling it, all of those things are easily regulated. And there's already guardrails for that. There's just not as much there for the enforcement side of that. And no one here definitely is against any of that stuff.
And not all the companies from California, I want to say, are bad companies.
Right.
What you would see is if you force this industry to stay within Texas, you would have companies moving from out of state, moving to Texas to participate in this industry. And it would alleviate all the bad actors.
Which I've already been doing for 6 years. So is this guy. So is this guy.
I see.
Invested a lot of time.
Okay.
I'm outside of my legislative work, I'm a general manager of a couple stores here in Austin, and we grow our own flower, we produce our own gummies, we do everything by ourselves because we want to make sure that none of the crap that comes from, excuse my language, that comes from out of state is what's being sold, because a lot of it is crap, and it hurts Texans, it hurts people, it hurts the industry because it hurts.
And the thing is that a lot of these bad actors out of state that they're talking about, they're not getting Texas regulations and stuff. They're making stuff and then sending it to Texas, and as long as it fits a certain cannabinoid profile, they're fine. But they're not being tested for other stuff because of the lack of enforcement and regulation.
Our legitimacy when bad products are being sold and they think that it's coming from people here in the state producing good agricultural products. It angers me when we're doing everything right and at the end of the day we're being punished for it, or at least demonized for it. Sorry, not punished.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, members, any other questions? All right.
Sorry, my mic was muted. Anyways, I got the link from Hometown Hero in this video. I posted it in the chat. I've got it in the description of the VOD later whenever it goes up. Please go and give them some support, give them some love, because they absolutely deserve it. And contact your representatives, contact your legislatives, and make sure that they know that you're not going to stand for this, that you want legalized hemp and cannabis in Texas, and you want it regulated, and that you're tired of this constant cat and mouse game of, oh, we're gonna legalize it, or oh, we're gonna ban it, or oh, we're gonna, allow you to have a certain amount, or no, it's completely illegal. This cat and mouse game back and forth needs to stop, and I'm happy to see that it's going somewhere. So go and check out Hometown Hero here in the description. If you're here on live, go ahead and check it out in the chat. Much love to you guys, and remember that you can stay sober. You can do it. I believe in you. If you're having trouble, I know you can reach out and get help, and I hope that you can get the help that you need, because you deserve it. Much love. Peace.